All right, all right. Happy Wednesday. Happy Wednesday. I am Nicole Roan, your favorite capacity coach, and I am so excited to be starting this bi weekly series. And it's called Capacity Conversations. Now, before I jump in and talk about why your capacity matters, I do want to share a little bit about me because I got into this space as a capacity coach because I had a situation where I was not dealing with my mental health, my physical health, the stress, the things that were going on while I was still a leader in corporate space. And I recognized after being put in the hospital and put in ICU and fighting for my life how important our capacity is. And today I want to come on here just to tell you all why capacity matters. Okay. So our capacity is important for a couple of reasons. Number one, it makes us do a bigger, deeper dive into what's working and what's not working in our personal and our professional lives. Because there are too many of us that are honestly walking around, entertaining relationships, friendships, spaces, including workspaces that we've either outgrown, that no longer serve us, that, are no longer fulfilling, but we're afraid to be honest about that, right? And that's your capacity, right? You're really taking an opportunity to dive in and think about, how am I spending my time? How am I spending my energy? How am I managing my resources? And that's what capacity is all about. Because I've been in your shoes, I understand what it's like to put myself on the back burner for the sake of success, for the sake of, a really great paying job or a corner office, right? With, a parking spot that has my name on it. To not only do that self-sacrificing, but to also, in a sense, sacrifice my family as well and my well-being. And my whole goal with these conversations is to have these open and honest conversations about how to navigate these different spaces. How do we, come to terms with the fact that a relationship may need to end? How do we come to terms with the fact that I'm not holding myself to my own boundaries, right? Because all of these things really do impact how you show up in your personal and professional life. And I can remember, listening to my favorite mentor, Patrice Washington's podcast, and she said something that stuck with me. And I think that this was actually one of the catalysts for my own change. Was that there was a point in time where she felt like a public success and a private failure. So if any of you are listening to this, are watching this, and you're on the replay and you've ever felt like that, or you feel like that now, then you're in the right space. You are in good company. You are not by yourself. And so I want to talk about exactly what capacity means. And I've already talked about it just a little bit. To me, the textbook definition of capacity, meaning, how much something can contain, didn't really fit my experience and my situation. And so capacity to me is the amount of time, energy, and resources that you have available to navigate and manage all the different, moving parts of your personal and professional life. And there are 5 different areas that I use to describe this. So the first one really is our heart flow. And that is all about the values that you have, the relationships that you have, the boundaries that you have put in place. All of those things that really pull on your heartstrings and impact the decisions that you make on a regular basis. Whether it's to go to a birthday party that you've been invited to when you already know that you're overbooked and you don't want to disappoint somebody, or if it's to stay a little bit later on the job because you don't want to be deemed as the one who doesn't want to work, right? These values, these boundaries, these relationships impact how you make decisions on a regular basis. Number 2 is going to be your workflow, right? Most of us, I hope, are, either working, have a full-time business or a side business, but it's about how fulfilled you feel in that, how much balance you're able to have between your personal and professional life, your desire to grow. All of these things are going to be really important for you in both your personal and professional life, because as we've seen through COVID, there's a very, very thin line, especially now, between home and work, right? And so being able to manage all of the thoughts, the feelings, the needs, the wants, desires that come up with that requires you to really take a good look at how you manage your time and your energy. Who are you giving it to? What's the reason behind that? So that's your workflow. And then we have our health flow. What I learned from my personal situation, which, sometimes you already know, but sometimes you got to have a situation that comes to a head for you to realize it, but that how intertwined our mental, physical, and emotional health are, and how when those things are impacted, just one of those, it impacts how we show up at work. It impacts how we feel about ourselves. It impacts how we show up in our personal circles. It impacts, our values sometimes, the boundaries that we set, all of those different things. So making sure that we are taking stock of what's going on in our health flow as well. The fourth one is going to be around your cash flow. So yes, the money that you make, how you spend it, your mindset around it. And this is really important to me because I can remember being in one of the highest paid roles that I've ever had, where I was making 6+ figures, right? And although the money was good, I wasn't fulfilled in some of the work that I was doing for the job, but I also wasn't fulfilled in the different relationships that I had. Like my marriage was going down the tubes. I was struggling with, a child that has chronic migraines. And so to fill that void, as fast as those 6 figures were coming in, I was spending it. And so I had to realize how what was going on in those different areas was impacting how I was spending and managing my money as well as my mindset. So that's the fourth one. And the final one is faith flow. And now I know everybody has a different, sense of belief, whether you are spiritual, religious, any of those different things. Your faith flow is really about your foundation and functioning and how you utilize that when everything hits the fan, when, things are going good and when things are going bad, and having some, systems, some routines, some practices to really help uplift you in those hard times. That's what your faith flow is about. Now, all 5 of these work together to help you manage your capacity, to manage your time, to manage your energy, to manage your resources so that you can show up in excellence. Because if you're anything like me, it took me a really long time to put myself on my to-do list, let alone at the top of it, because I was accustomed to being the one for everybody, right? The one in my friend and family circles, the one, at work, the one who was always willing to go the extra mile. And oftentimes that left me feeling frustrated, depleted. I felt like I was on autopilot, all of those different things. And it's because I wasn't managing my capacity. And so the reason I'm doing this session and doing these capacity conversations is because, number one, I want everyone who's watching this, who's listening to this, who is on the replay, to understand that your capacity is the one thing that you have control over. And it combines so many different things. It's not just your physical health. It's not just your mental health. It's your time. It's your mindset. It's all of those different things. And they really do work together and impact how you show up at work, in your business, in your marriage, and your friendships. And they help you figure out what you're going to accept and what you're not going to accept. And this allows you to really create the life that you desire. And so, for the last 3 or 4 years, I have been talking to everybody that would listen, not only being featured in different magazine articles, being, a coach in different programs, doing speaking engagements, holding workshops to talk about why your capacity matters. The truth is that many of us, especially as women, and I know there may be some men that are listening or watching, and that's okay too. You can listen too. But I'm speaking from a woman's perspective because I'm a woman. And I understand that most of the time we are operating way beyond our capacity. We're putting so much more on our plates and we can't really manage it all. And it's because we want the promotion, right? Or we want to look good on the outside, but are secretly struggling at home. We want to make sure that we're showing up and being the best moms, the best wives, but we're doing it in a way that's self-sacrificing. at our max capacity. And when you are at that threshold where you cannot take on anything else, but you continue to do that, you're doing a disservice to yourself. You're doing a disservice to the organization that you work for. You're doing a disservice to the businesses that you run, because I know you've heard it before, right? That you cannot give from an empty cup. But the truth is, many of us do. We're given from cups that are not only dry, but they have holes in them, because there are people and mindsets and situations that are sucking us dry. And so my goal is to just start this conversation to talk about what capacity means, how to manage it, share tips and tricks and resources for myself and other folks that I'm going to have on here about how do we work through this? How do you set boundaries, right? How do you create healthy relationships? How do you delegate at home and at work? Because that's a really big part. And how do you get over certain mindsets that have you stuck to values that you don't even value anymore? That's what this conversation is about. And so I want to invite you to join me every single week. Now, the capacity conversations is going to be one series that I'm hosting every other week. And then I'm also going to be hosting how to build leadership capacity for all of those who are in, corporate, and you have 9-to-5s and you are figuring out, how to take your career to the next level, how to advance, how to grow, how to feel fulfilled. I'm going to be doing that bi-weekly as well. So you're going to be getting a whole lot of me for the next couple of weeks, where I'm sharing all of these things that we all need so that we can have better time management, so that we can be more productive, so that we can change the narrative on self-care being selfish, so that we can do the things that we need to do to sustain ourselves, our families, the places that we work, our businesses, because it takes more than just one thing. And so with that, I invite you to join me back here next week. And we'll have some really great guests that are going to be on, and some of them are actually going to be some of the conference speakers. And so if you have seen any of my posts and social media recently, I am hosting a capacity conference, yes, where we're going to talk all about these things with 8 different wonderful, powerful, transformational speakers, including myself, right here in the Chicago area. And so I'll be able to give you a little bit of a preview of what you can expect at that conference. But these conversations that I'm having are really to help build the awareness around what capacity is, how to manage it, and what that looks like for you, so that you can create work-life balance, so that you can restore peace that you may have, so that you can learn to say no to the good so you can say yes to the great. Right? So that you can show up in excellence no matter what room that you're walking into, and you can put imposter syndrome to the side and learn how to manage that, so that you can set boundaries with yourself and others and either enforce them or reinforce them, right? This is where we get the tools to manage both our personal and our professional lives. And I'm doing it because I didn't see anybody else doing it. And so I'm hoping that even already that this is helping you. I hope that you will be back here with me next week. If you are interested in learning more about the conference, I am dropping the link to it right now. So make sure that you get on the email list, because it's going to be a 2-day conference that is going to truly change your life. And I'm honored to be hosting it. I'm excited about the guests that are going to be there. So in addition to joining me here live on a weekly basis, make sure that you check out the information on the capacity conference again that is going to be happening in the Chicago area August 3rd and 4th. Okay? I'll talk to you guys soon and see you next week.